welcome to our December release video. I finally got around to filming this. It's just been one of those weeks. I believe I said something on the Wednesday weekly video that the night before had been a particularly evil one in regards to work, and so fate said, "You thought that was bad? Check us out." And so, Thursday and Friday was pretty rough. It ended up being about 5 hours more than it should have been. I mean, I got paid for it and everything, but still, the principle of the matter. And then by the time we got everything done with Saturday and Sunday's work shifts, it was just, one of those days where you gotta go crash into bed and just sort of hang out with the family and try to, rejoin society as it is. So, my fake apologies, because I'm really not apologizing for not getting this out on Friday, like I said. So if you're new to the channel, got some more subscribers, we'll do a count on the weekly video like we always do, just for the S and giggles of it all. Welcome to you new folks. Hope you like the channel format. I saw a comment in the last one saying it was a different presentation than some of the other videos, which is a good thing, because then I have my own, my own thing to draw you in and capture you as a viewer, or really annoy you, depending on whether or not you like this format or not. So, real quick, as we plow through this for my kids wake back up out of their mid-afternoon naps today, Notebook of Knowledge. We have our December release information from everybody, finally. The one comment I will make about domestic kit manufacturers is that people were touting that there was a possibility that the Model King version of the Mobius 69 Ford F-100 short bed with the six-banger in it was going to be out before Christmas. I have not heard any official even hints of that. That was just a speculation that somebody had made a couple months ago. Like I said, based on the actual concrete information that we have, they're saying second quarter of 2015, which is, anywhere from 3.5 to 6.5 months from now. So I don't actually believe that we're going to see that come out this month. I have absolutely no reason whatsoever to believe that. Also hearing from a few people in the United Kingdom that the 1912 Model T Roadster from ICM is on shelves in the hobby shops there. Now, I presume that this is actually the smaller, Roadster version and not the 1910 one that they're taking pre-orders for next month, because the 1912 Roadster is the one that's 6 months late. The touring car, like I said, just got a release date. And I know that ICM's not domestic, but it was just something in my head, and if I don't mention it now, I'll forget all about it. But domestically, for December, we'll start at Revell. Revell's got two kits coming out. Both of them are just straight reissues of old kits. First was the Matt and Debbie Hayes Ford Thunderbird Pro Street, I believe they call it, although it's probably way more of a Pro stock than anything else, just from a drivability standpoint. I'm sure that maybe they could have licensed that thing for street use, but I don't believe that it was. But anyway, I know for the drag guys, they're excited to have this one come back. It's been a really long time. I'm not sure, because I didn't actually go check, but I'm not sure if that kit has ever been reissued from the original running of it back in the early 90s, back when Hot Rod was sort of entangled with Revell. When they had Revell had a contract with Peterson Publishing in general, because they did a bunch of Motor Trend themed kits as well, but the Hot Rod thing was real big, if anybody remembers the 80s and 90s. I don't believe that kit was ever reissued from that. It's one of those kits that, like the LAPD Camaro and the Lincoln Mark Pro Street Pro stock car, that have just never been reissued in any way, shape, or form since the original issuing. The other one is the Acura Integra. This is the sort of dual-wheeled, because it was also a die-cast kit. It's a curbside. It's not the RSX 3-in-1. It is the older Integra. Last time it was out was in the Tuner series. It had two box runnings in that series. Both of them had yellow cars in the box, but one box was a donut box and one was not. But again, that's another kit that probably hasn't been out for 10, 15 years. It was part of that ill-fated Tuner series where, the stuff that was new, like the Integra, the RSX, and the WRX and whatnot, were in the wrong scale. Now, I know for a lot of people here in the United States, they're going to start screaming when I say that because 125th isn't the wrong scale, 124th is the wrong scale. But you have to look at it from the position of global sales. Yes, within the United States, these cars are correct scale, if you believe that 125th is what the scale for the United States should be, and they should, much like, not using the metric system, be on a completely different measurement system from the rest of the globe. None of the Fujimi parts, none of the Oshima parts will fit any of the Tuner Series cars because they are all the wrong scale for the parts. All of Fujimi's wheels, all of their Tuner Series parts, all of the S parts stuff, all of the wheel sets, and all of the stuff like the Spocom and the Tuner Series and even the Tamiya Ings wings sets, all that stuff is 1/24th scale. And then when you're combining like small detail parts like that into another kit, that is when the scale thing starts to come back and haunt you. Engine size and fine outside details. It's one thing when you sort of are, fudging the numbers a little bit, trying to combine things, but usually engine blocks are one of those things that are noticeably larger when they're the wrong scale, or not the scale the kit is molded in. Let's put it that way. Or wheels and things like wings and steering wheels and seats and stuff like that. It's all gonna 1/24 scale is not gonna look right in a 1/25 scale model because it's gonna be just that little bit 1 inch per per foot kind of thing too big. So the like the Tuner Series. The actual Tuner Series kits, not the stuff that they made Tuner Series, like the BMW and the other kits that were sort of forced into the series to try to give it more bulk. But the actual kits that they designed for it weren't necessarily awful in the thought. It was just after it was between when Fast and the Furious came out and when it became really popular again. It's to an American public. Hobbyist public that, whether anybody wants to actually really admit to the fact or not, is really focused on the 1960s. You can call it Luddite, you can call it nostalgia. I mean, it's really bad right now because we're so far removed from the 60s. Now, I have a whole bunch of muscle cars over here, guys. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I don't build this stuff. I have all of the Mobius car kits, the Hudsons and the Chryslers. I have 50 Oldsmobile, 57 Ford, all of the Tri-5 Chevys. It's not like I don't build the stuff. It's not like I don't like the stuff. But it's also stuff that's 50 plus years old for the most part. And you get into that weird thing where people my age, our nostalgia is going to be like the 80s and the early 90s. And there isn't any cars from there that I really want to see made. I mean, there's a few holes that you could fill. The G-body Cutlass that everybody wants Revell to make. Maybe redoing some of the old Corvettes that were really fiddly, the MPC and the monogram stuff. There may be some 80s cars in there, but let's face it, the 70s and the 80s were just an awful time for the domestic U.S. manufacturers. Insurance and gas and everything just went through the roof, and there was no horsepower, there was no sports. Everything was badge engineering. That's how you got like a Cadillac Chevy Cavalier and all the rest of the horrible stuff that happened back then. And, there's not really much of that I would really want to see put into kit form. Even the trucks weren't that great back then. Big trucks, one thing, but like pickups and, there really were no SUVs. It was Broncos, Blazer, that was pretty much it. So you get into the wanting, guys my age wanting, new cars or maybe new tool, import stuff. How about like a BMW 2002 CSI? That's the new series BMW. It's one of those BMW. It's a BMW that saved BMW and allows it to still be here today. And it's never been molded in scale. It's been some die-cast, but never an actual plastic kit. And all the die-casts were either bigger or smaller than 1/24 scale. You have a whole bunch of even just going back classic stuff. There's a whole bunch of like classic foreign cars that haven't been made, and there's a reasonably good chunk of classic and even 50s and 60s American cars that haven't been made. And, trying to find that mix is kind of going to be kind of interesting because while Gen X and Gen Y to a certain extent are the smaller of the building groups, the 60s guys, all the guys that are from the 50s and the 60s who got into modeling because modeling got into them and it existed back then. they're, reliving their childhoods, and there's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong. Maybe to some people who are planted there and they've never gone mentally or technologically past when they graduate high school. That's a whole different thing. But, you get into the whole thing of the 40s, 30s, and like mid to late 20s guys are a smaller group than the retiree age people that are, in this. But of course, more of us will be coming back into the hobby as more of us get more and more free time. 5 years ago, I couldn't have made videos on any kind of regular basis. I just didn't have time. I didn't have a place to put the models. I didn't have this basement or anything like that 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I don't think I might have bought a kit here or there if it really, really interested me, just to have it in case I might have built it at some point. But, my kit stash for the most part is old stuff like what's behind me, all these these Caprices and Crown Vics that I bought back when they were new, and I was still prior to getting like a real job and real responsibilities, or the kits I have from my childhood. I have a lot of AMT or Ertl era stuff that I bought when I was in high school, and then everything else is like newer, 5 years or newer. I mean, I've collected some vintage kits. I have a couple of Johan kits. I have some kits that I built as a kid. Those are vintage now that I'm in my 30s. I have some vintage import stuff that's newer than the new import stuff, and whatnot. But there's a real big push at Revell, at Nostalgia, and now at Kids, and it's got this sort of interesting, weird thing of you're trying to get my kids into doing something by ignoring me and giving stuff for my dad to build. My dad built models when he was my age, but he doesn't do it anymore. That I'm aware of. Maybe I'll get him back into it. It's a father-son activity time, but what I'm trying to say is, you're trying to get my people who are my age, basically. We're the ones that have kids old enough to do the build and plays and the pre-paints, or people that are slightly older than us that are going to have, that are like late 40s or 50s who have grandkids into this, that are builders, who are the top of Gen X and the bottom of the baby boomers. And there's not a lot out there for us necessarily in these tuner series. We're wrapping around a circle. We're getting back to the point. These tuner series were sort of like a wet blanket thrown in our general direction of like, well, here's some new cars, go away. And it was like, it wasn't a bad idea. If somebody would have greenlighted it maybe 3 or 4 years sooner, it would have been a better thing. And the true irony of these kits is they're really expensive right now. People just gave them away. They may have thrown them out. They really didn't seem to want them back then. You couldn't give that Acura Integra away. And now if you go on eBay or you try to buy it off somebody, they want, $30, $40, $50 for it, which is why Revell's reissuing it. They, as inept as we may say Revell is about certain things, they can look outside of their building once in a while, especially when it comes to, making money. And, they see the kind of prices the Acura Integra kit is getting. They see the kind of prices that Honda Civic that's coming out in the first quarter is getting. And they want, why should private citizens make that money when they can? It'll crater the value of those kits for anybody who's collected them and is trying to sell them at that higher price point. And in the process, they hope that market hasn't saturated itself from the resales and that they can, get some money on new kit sales or, new release kit sales. On the other side of town, or the other side of the Illinois-Indiana state line, over at Round 2, which is a building, incidentally, you can see off the Indiana Toll Road. If you go through South Bend, I'm pretty sure you can stop in. I think Auto World has an actual store at the building there, but on the MPC side of Round 2, they're going to be releasing, remember this is December stuff, 1971 Mercury Cyclone NASCAR kit. This was something that the Model King had found the tooling to. Dave Burkett, the Model King. This is, he's not the self-proclaimed. That's just his, business. Found the tooling and had it cleaned up and stuff and ran it, I want to say 10, 15 years ago. It may not be 15 years ago. Maybe more like 8 to 10 years ago. And Round 2 has gone back and retooled the chassis to be closer to the original chassis than the sort of one-size-fits-all NASCAR chassis that they ended up using underneath all of their 1970s kits, and sort of why, people sort of look at you askance when you say, "Oh, I got an MPC or AMT, NASCAR kit." Because prior to the 124 scale monogram 1980s NASCAR kits were, pretty much for the most part old annual kits that had sort of a generic chassis and roll caging system shoved up underneath of them so they could reuse the tooling for something else. And so they've taken that backdated chassis and have created what they're calling as close to an original kit as you can buy without buying the original kit. And that's not the Model King rerun from the mid-2000s. That's an original 1971 model kit. This one's going to be molded in two colors. The bodies and body parts are going to be molded in white. The rest of the kit's going to be molded in black. It'll, of course, come in a retro box and have new decal sheet drawn up for it. AMT has the most of any of the kit manufacturers other than Aoshima, actually. They're going to be doing two sets of parts packs. One is going to be the Chrysler 392 Corvair parts pack, the engine parts pack. This is one of those, everything is covered in shellacking of chrome kind of thing. But, if you're just looking for some engines, especially, 60s custom style engines, there's I believe a Spider injection or Spider something about the Corvair, and the 392 has a custom intake and stuff like that. The other parts pack is going to be the 1969 vintage Mercury Sleeper. That's a what in the trucking industry we call a coffin bunk sleeper, because it was just barely big enough to fit in, and if the truck wrecked while you were in it, they were just going to bury you in it. This one is all chrome. Kind of an interesting, twist, but all the parts pack stuff's chrome, so we'll chrome this sleeper too. Probably the most recent place that this sleeper has been within a kit is the Diamond Rio big rig. This is being brought out primarily to fit with the California Peterbilt kit, because some people who are old enough to remember, or who remember the video we did way back when it came out, will remember that they could not find, or is inserviceable in some way, the mail-in sleeper for this Peterbilt kit that came out. They found that the California Pete kit wasn't incomplete; it was just gated off. They reissued it, after so many years of much fanfare in the truck modeling community. And there was no sleeper for it, because there was a thing where I believe a couple of kits came with the sleeper, but the original gag of the original kit was that you could mail in for it and get it sent to you. That sleeper doesn't exist in a technical sense because they can't remake it. So what they did was put this Mercury sleeper in a parts pack to sell it separately, because Mercury is not like the car manufacturer Mercury. It was a sleeper manufacturer. And that was a available option on that 1969 Peterbilt. It was not a factory sleeper like the one you could mail in was, but it is something that you can use and be technically correct. There are three kits also. One, the 2010 Chevy Camaro SSRS kit, the showroom replicas curbside, is coming out for another Indy 500 themed release. There are a bunch of Corvettes done this way. For the 2010 Indy 500, this will have some collector's card stuff in it, and it really is really aimed at the Indy 500 nut. Because if there are plenty of the 2010 SSRS kits just out there at my hobby shop house, at least between the 6 hobby shops, I bet there's a dozen of them. Every one of them has at least 2, and that doesn't count the police car version. And they're not hard to find. They're all over eBay. They're all over everywhere, because in the end, nobody in the United States wanted a curbside car. Everybody wanted one with an engine, and that's what the Revell kit ended up being. So this is just says it has a light bar, which I will bet dollars to donuts is the crappy one out of the police car kit. It has the new decals for the Indy 500 pace car thing, and like I said, the Indy 500 memorabilia stuff that they've shoved in the box. But, other than that, it's just a themed version of the existing kit. The 69 Corvair, this is, the old Corvair kit, once again being reissued. It's not been really that long since it's been reissued. It was prior to round 2 leasing the tooling, so it's, been a little while, but it hasn't been, ages and ages. You're gonna get a nostalgia box, a mini box inside the box of the nostalgia box. It's gonna have nostalgic decal sheet drawn up for it. But other than that, it's going to be just a straight reissue of that Corvair. If you have one of these Corvairs, you probably don't need another one. I don't want to short circuit AMT sales or anything, but there's nothing special about this kit other than the box art. So unless you're a box art collector, there's you can skip this one. If you have the Prestige or the Millennial or any of the other reissues of this kit, you have this kit. It's aimed squarely at people coming back to the hobby, people who are new to the hobby, and people who collect stuff rather than build it. The one thing we've left to the last, and is really sort of the most interesting thing that anyone is doing at the end of the year here, is there's also going to be a reissue of the 1969 Corvair Shazoom. There's like 6 O's in it. Shazoom! Funny car. This is a rear-engine funny car. It is the first time this kit has been issued since it was originally done. It was never reissued. It's 45 plus years since the last time this kit came out. This is where I think the whole nostalgia thing at Round 2 really shows and really shines, is when they could take one of these ancient, nobody even knew where all the parts of it were, but we managed to find it and put it back together again, kits, and reissue it. Keep in mind that this, even though I'm going to list the retooled and the stuff that they had to do to fix it, keep in mind, even though a bunch of the stuff is retooled, it is still a 45-plus-year-old model kit. I see AMT gets so, Round 2 in general, but AMT kits especially, get so much static online from people who buy these things thinking they're going to be 2014 engineering quality kits. And guess what? They're not. The AMT stopped making new kits, arguably, at the end of the AMT Ertl era, and even some of those weren't all that great. Sure, Racing Champions did put out some newer stuff. They put out, Polar Lights put out that awful GTO and the awful Coronet. There was the awful Pontiac GTO, the new, like the Holden rebadged GTO. If you don't know why those kits are awful, go ask somebody. Everybody knows why. I'm not going out on a very thin limb by calling them that. They just, they were proportionally just dreadful. The engine in the GTO is a joke, which is a shame because it's another LS engine. That could have been used in something else, but you can't use it in anything else because it's just a toy. These Racing Champions was a diecast company, and they wanted to make model kits, and they just there's no sense rehashing old business. What has been retooled on this are the headlight covers, the rear bumpers, the chin spoiler, and the wheelie bars. There's going to be optional tinted windows included as well, which I believe is a feature of the original kit. So there'll be clear windows and optional tinted windows. But you're going to, there's like that list of retooled stuff. Just because it's been retooled and it is 2014 stuff, keep in mind that the rest of the kit is not, first of all. And second of all, you're trying to plug new parts into an old kit. It may not fit really all that great. Go see the retooling of the factory stock Gremlin kit. The new front end they did for that doesn't really fit. You have to do some fiddling. I mean, any real modeler can build it. And I don't want to start the whole kit assembler versus model builder argument. But you can't really kit assemble, especially these old vintage kits. You just can't kit assemble them. They are not a Tamiya kit. They're not a add glue and paint and expect a model kit to come out 2 days later kind of thing. You got to build the thing. You're going to have to test fit a lot. There's not going to be much, if any, positive location. There's not going to be a whole lot of insert pin A into hole B. There's no pin and there's no hole. Super glue is your friend kind of thing. Or epoxy 5-minute if you don't dare the super glue route. But it's really neat to see something that old that, probably nobody who, is old enough to remember building the original ever thought they would ever see again. But now they will at the end of the month. So, like I said, I don't see the point in giving AMT a ration of nonsense. You just need to be an informed consumer. Now, Lindbergh got a ration of stuff, too, for their kits, and most of that was deserved because they would take those old Pyro tools, the old IMC tools, there's a couple Palmers there in there too. They took all those old kits and they repackaged them as new kits. And a lot of people got stung on the stuff like the 48 Fort Lincoln, some of those early 70s like Challenger and Mustang. Some of that stuff was god awful and no business ever being reissued at all, let alone twice. Once by the old Lindbergh, once by the new Lindbergh. Hopefully those tools are going to be put away, never to be seen again now that Round 2 owns Lindbergh. But Lindbergh deserved their own rash criticism. But unfortunately, all that criticism sort of deflected from the fact that especially when they were owned by Craft House, and working out of Toledo, that they made really good new model kits. You know, the stuff like the 66 Chevelle, the 67 Olds 442, the 53 Fords, 97 Ford F-150, the 64 Dodge, and 64 Plymouth, all of the sort of the oddball wrong side, 1/20th scale kits. You know, they were the wrong scale again, but they're really nice kits, despite the fact that they're 1/20th scale. It's a shame they didn't put that money into making 1/24 scale kits out of those cars, like the S10 and the Grand Cherokee and stuff like that, because I think they would have sold a boatload of those kits had they been, you know, more traditionally scaled. You know, the stuff we saw out of J. Lloyd was like the Chargers. Those were, you know, the very end of Lindbergh prior to it being bought out. And the Raminator, some of those kits. But, you know, during the 90s, Lindbergh put out a really nice series of really good kits, and it's completely overshadowed by every single person that opens a 48 Lincoln and is met with that box of disaster. And, you know, then it becomes trying to explain, well, no, you just have to watch what you're doing. And that's sort of the same thing about round two. They've reissued a bunch of the late 90s era Ertl tooling. And, you know, it gets completely trampled by the fact that, you know, some guy buys one of these 45-plus-year-old kits, expects something easy to throw together like a Revell kit, and, you know, we can argue till we're blue in the face, because a lot of us won't change the minds of the other person about whether or not Revell kits are all that particularly accurate, and whether or not that accuracy is something that matters or not, because to some people it just doesn't, and to some people it does, and those two camps are just never going to ever meet in the middle. That, you know, no matter how sort of oddball the proportions of that 90 Mustang LX is, from everything I've heard, it goes together really well. From all the oddball proportions of the 70 Hemi Cuda strike 3 or out, and the 67 Camaro, and the 57 Chevy convertible with its weird door dip that isn't correct. Despite all of those proportional issues, kit engineering, Revell has it down. They're not as easy to assemble as, say, a Tamiya kit, but they're better than almost everything else out there. And you can throw, you know, glue and paint into the box, and maybe a week and a half later a model crawls out. It's not Tamiya, you know, not Tamiya quality by any stretch of the imagination, but it is, you know, 2014, you know, spec engineering, and you're not going to get that out of a round two kit. And it's a shame because it overshadows some really nice kits that especially AMT Ertl did in the late 80s through the end of the 90s when they got bought out, and the disaster, you know, that disaster happened to the whole hobby because Lindbergh went under and resurfaced, you know, and Revell and Monogram merged and then almost went under, and then, you know, AMT and Ertl, MPC, Ertl, all that got bought out by Racing Champions and should have went under and maybe just come back. We could have just all done without the Racing Champions era altogether, just take it away. But, you know, it is what it is, I guess. You know, that's why we do these videos, mainly just so you guys, you know what you're buying, because it costs so much right now. Even though the price of oil is dropping, it's not going to drop enough to help kit prices. They're never going to come back down to $10, $12. So if you're going to spend $20 on something, you ought to know what you're getting. So spending $20 on model kits coming out of the other side of the ocean over in Japan, you've still got some carryover stuff from November. That being primarily the Hino Super Dolphin dump truck and the two Civic reissues from Hasegawa. No word on any of those things. None of the release dates have changed. But there's no, you know, nothing's been updated to say, well, okay, it didn't come out in November, but it is going to come out the 15th. Nothing like that. So that brings us to what we got coming out currently. Tamiya, you've got two things. Well, one thing now, because the one other thing actually came out already. The Gazoo Racing, Toyota Racing Development, Toyota 86, 2013 Toyota Racing Development Rally Challenge winner. I don't know if I can put all that in a box or not, but that's the way the print wording is for it. That reissue of the Toyota 86 with the rally parts and the new interior wheels and stuff like that, that's coming out. There was a carbon fiber dress-up kit, and dress-up set. We'll cover this in the weekly video come Wednesday, but that is out. Hasegawa, you're getting the limited edition Corolla 1600 GT that has the correct factory Toyota wheels and the new decal sheet. From Fujimi,
The Studi Racing number 7 2014 BMW Z4 GT3. This is the first of the liveried versions of the updated 2014 BMW kit. The 1/20th scale, 6-wheel Tyrrell P3A, done as the 1977 British Grand Prix. You got the Toge kits, the Mountain Pass stuff, Volkswagen Golf GTI Gen 2, the EK9 Civic Type R late production, 280Z Alumum, and the 95 Integra Type R. Keep in mind the Integra does have left-hand drive, but it is still a export, non-North American Integra. You cannot build it as an Acura. It's still going to be a Honda no matter what you do to it, unless you go get some Acura badges for it. And then you have the window mask kits, the Mazda Roadster, which we have confirmed is not the current, but the most previous generation Mazda Roadster. This is the straight kits, not the Mazda Speed version. The Stagia RS4V Nissan station wagon, and the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3 and the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 9. All of those, like I said, have window masks inside. And lastly, but not least, Aoshima stuff on the spot run side of things. The Gloria 280 Brome Best Vintage Car GT kit. That is actually out today. We'll cover it in depth on the weekly video. The old IMA VW Beetle 1303S tooling. Another run of the Rocket Bunny Toyota 86 Enki wheels version. That's the red box art kit from, and then the Lamborghini Aventador photo etch dress up set. On the new reissue front, you get all three of the Back to the Future DeLoreans in a more simplified construction method. This will be they're not going to be boxed together. These are three separate kits. The first movie, second movie, third movie. So there's one of each of these movies, but they don't have the photo etch in them, and they're not as detail intensive as the other kits are. They're sort of simplified a little bit, and they are a little bit cheaper because of that. You have the Z33 Fairlady. This is the 350Z if you were in America, but remember, it's not an American version. It is the Japanese version. Convertible kit that's buildable as a 2005 or 2007. The V24 Mitsubishi Pajero XR2. This is the two-door SUV Mitsubishi that goes between the Mitsubishi XR Mini, the little K car thing, and the Mitsubishi Pajero full-size, which we got here in the United States is the Montero. This is sort of something like a CRV RAV4 sized vehicle that wasn't exported to the United States. The McLaren F1 GTR Longtail Loctite number 41 version. Also found out that the number 41 Golf version kit that you may see floating around everywhere, that is an export-only kit. It will not be sold in Japan. You must, if you want one, buy one from a seller outside of Japan. I do not know, because I forgot to check, if Hobby Easy, which is based in Hong Kong, will sell this kit based on the fact that Hong Kong is technically not in Japan. However, more than likely, you will have to buy this either out of the United States directly or out of the European Union somewhere. You will not. I mean, there are decal sheets for the kit. You could just buy whatever Aoshima Longtail you wanted to, and then there's decals for the Fujimi Longtail version too. But if you want to get the Golf kit with the factory cartograph decals in it, you have to buy one that is being sold from someplace other than Japan. eBay will be your friend here if you don't have a hobby shop or can't find one online at like I said, in Hong Kong or something like that. You also have the Nissan Leopard 303, the Diki Minato unmarked patrol car, and the RS3 version of The Machine from the series that we talked about on our weekly video is scheduled to come out. We did get some new stuff what the spot runs are for Aoshima for January and February. And we have some other new news to talk about, but that is all for our weekly video on Wednesday. So, guys, that's what's coming out in the month of December. Well, some of it's already actually out. We managed to dink around and wait until the 8th of December to put this out, but life is what life is, and sometimes it just stands in the way and laughs at you. So, I know we went a little long here, went a little free form. It was not just running off the list like I thought it was going to be. Got into some discussions. If you have any comments about what I had to say about, anything in the video, not so much the release stuff because that's just standardized stuff, but the stuff I was sharing my opinions on. If you have any, comments or anything like that, chuck it down here in the comments section. Let's be interactive, have a conversation. Until we get back to you Wednesday with our normal weekly video. See you on the other side.